Jesus was merely pointing out to him that they were there playing roles, so to speak. There was a history before them. There was a scripture to be fulfilled, and they needed, for the sake of many, to fulfill those scriptures. Even though they might be ceremonious in nature, it was still something that had been foretold, something that was part of their mission, to go through the physical aspects of fulfilling what was expected or what had been prophesied. And we see that happening early on in Jesus' ministry, as if to say, let's get this portion of it out of the way so that we can get on to the things that we need to really look at and the things that we really need to do and accomplish. And one of the things that we approached in meditation today, it wasn't intentional, but it came out that way, was the concepts of faith, hope, and love, or charity. And surely that was a major part of Jesus' ministry, the concepts of love, and love being the primary ingredient of what he had to bring to mankind. In fact, only one commandment did he give us, and that was to love one another. And so it was certainly important to him that we understood what love was about. And we all know the feeling of having people in our lives that we love and that we care about in various degrees and in different ways. Certainly love is a concept that goes through physical, emotional, and mental levels as well as spiritual levels, and we all are well acquainted with what physical love is about. We certainly have an acquaintance with emotional love or feeling. We know sometimes that those can or cannot be the best thing for us. And we know from a mental standpoint the things that we think about. We spend a lot of time in thought. It's part of the human condition. And I venture to say that those things that we think about or that are paramount on our minds the most are the things that we love the most. We sometimes think that we're subject to something else going on, but we're not. If we look at ourselves and we look at the things that we spend time with mentally, those are the things we care about the most. And if in appraising ourselves we believe that there are certain of those things that aren't the best for us that we spend a lot of time on, then only we can change that. And the way that we do that is to switch over to other thoughts, other ideas, other concepts. One of the things in the past year that, I should say the last couple of years, that I've been blessed with is the opportunity to be part of some classes having to do with voice training and music. And I have been exposed to music at a higher level. And what's interesting to me is all the time we spend in life doing a lot of things, having thoughts or ideas about things we might like to look into, but we don't do it. We're off doing other things. And then when we finally get around to looking at it, we wonder why we hadn't gotten there sooner. There's a tremendous amount of beauty, art, a tremendous amount for us to appreciate in the line of music. And as we learn, or certainly in my case, as I've learned more about music, then I listen for different things than I used to. And so that whole concept expands outward and is ever expanding. Yesterday, Matthew and I, maybe it was the day before, had a quick little thought about the universe expanding. Matthew had a dream where he was avoiding something or getting away from something, and he moved quickly in the opposite direction of what he wanted to avoid, but found himself on the edge of the universe, which is a rather interesting thought. Found himself on the edge of the universe where he couldn't he had hit the wall, so to speak. That was the end of the universe, but things didn't stop. He was riding the crest of that expansion that continually goes on, and we were talking about the rate of expansion and the concept that it certainly had to be expanding at the speed of light. So he's like standing on a wave that was continuing to move forward each moment. And then he had the concept that, well, it's not really just moving forward in that spot. It's moving forward in every direction. You know, it's like a circle. As we limit it to 360 degrees, it's expanding continually outward, and so it's geometrically proportional as to how fast it's going. And of course, the circle keeps getting bigger or wider and keeps moving faster and faster, at least from what we've been able to ascertain. And so I got stuck thinking about, well, you know, it's moving forward in this circle, but the light itself, if I just took one molecule of light, that isn't moving forward just by itself. It's moving also in a circle. So it's also going back into the light that it's coming from, so to speak, and 360 degrees around it. And then I found myself wondering, well, is the light somehow impeding because it's going in two different directions? It gets crazy, right? But I think it's not only forever expanding outward, but it's forever contracting inward. There's no end point to the inwardness, and that's part of the dichotomy that we get to think about, is how do things go infinitely outward and infinitely inward at the same time? And obviously it's beyond our present scope of thought or idea, but it's sufficient to know that there are things out there that we can't explain. And when I look at that, and then I want to look at the concepts of love and hope and faith, there were a lot of times in my life where I didn't understand those concepts too well. And I'm not saying I understand them, you know, really well now or fully, but I do have a greater comprehension of their meaning than I used to. And everything begins with hope.